I now, as a guardian of the bar, have been appointed as chief scribe, a custodian of the records of Ma'at, to tell you this story. It is hoped that insights will be gained and the wisest choices will be made at all the points of assessment as we spiral forward. Be steady. Let I be heard. Before all the things of the world came into being, there was space. A perfect peace called Hotep. The I was there, being of one mind, being pure. There I was. There I am. Concentration is a thing, and as we all know now, one thing leads to another. First, the I took on bodies of thought, and then, over time, these became condensed into physical bodies. It did impress I the way the first particles emerged. The value and potential were evident to the eye. These first physical things began to play with each other under the laws of supreme flow, continuous transformation. The eye realized an urge, a kind of itch, and the first living being formed. It was a bit of the eye. The eye called it Abit. I capped this being's heart with the first mineral, a diamond. Flying through the cosmic particle environment, Abit used the mind as a fractal of the eye to evolve a place, a space to call home. Abit named this place Meheret, Earth. It took time, an era, to shape the Earth. Abit multiplied into a legion of creators, using the force of mind to shape matter as the eye had done. They directed specific rocks into the earth, dynamically crashing them into a core and then into the growing earth's surface, setting up the best possible foundations for their future seeds to be. At the end of that era, the community of Abit prepared an Uthakapod. It orbited high above the earth. From here, their next generations would descend onto Meheret in an orderly and gradually staged process. The first wave went well. The first manted warriors, the guardians of the Kab, descended on silk-like threads and, upon touching down on Earth, found it to be perfect. At least, it seemed to be. Guardians of the Ba, guardians of the Kub, guardians of the Shechem, guardians of the Ab, guardians of the Sahu, guardians of the Kaibet, guardians of the Kab. In phases, there were 7 waves planned. The young mantids descended with grace and settled, each wave being in their own particular space and time. Upon completion of the 3rd wave, the guardians of the Sahu were swiftly transformed into a new kind of being. Oh, did I mention that as the first guardians settled on Earth, fresh as it was, their profound thoughts mingled with the subtle particles of matter. This led to a dynamic blossoming of new worlds, new life forms. The earth was greened with plants, and there was much dynamic movement from the animal creatures. Looking carefully at these early creatures of earth, the eye chose one and made an intervention, synergizing a bit with these ones. Taking on the soil hue, these waves of mantis became the first human beings. The eye made more interventions, smaller in nature, and the culture of the humans improved. The earlier waves were transformed similarly, but they retained more of their primal nature. None of the humans could hold Abit's complete insight. Some things were lost, and some things were gained. A journey of self-realization had begun, and the eye's touch was simply light. It is here that our story really begins. Some young ones being previously guardians of the cub, were playing with rocks. They made the rocks dance on the water, skipping them on the surface. On one throw, 2 stones clashed and cracked apart. As they broke, something shiny was seen within them before they fell into the water. The profound perception of Abit was with them. The young ones dived into the water and retrieved the broken stones. Inside were minerals. This was the first clear realization that breaking rock could reveal more refined matters. The community grew increasingly attracted to this. One started searching out these minerals and soon found all kinds of uses for them beyond their natural beauty. It was mid-afternoon, and 3 young ones were foraging for fun. They found a cave they'd not investigated before and entered. Deep they went. It was a beautiful place. With walls of all kinds of shiny stuff, minerals of many colors and forms. They went really deep. Before they knew it, it was nighttime. Having no fear, they decided to sleep there, and that's when it happened. In the night, as they slept, some creatures moved below them in the soil. They were stealthy, more so than any other creatures. As one mind, 3 strange worms emerged from the earth. Gently, they eased into the mouths of the 3 young ones. And without arousing them from their slumber, they moved through their bodies and left through their bottoms. Swiftly, the worms bore back into the earth, where they found their tails, biting into them, forming a loop, now binding the young ones to the earth. The young ones were sedated by an ooze from the worms' skins. This same ooze attracted more worms, baby ones, who formed a clue connected to the lower underground portion of the master worms. It looked messy, but was actually a graceful earth-weaving dance, whereby the clue of wormlets started sucking energy from the master worms. transforming metaphysical as they did. In turn, the master worms drew from the life force of the young ones. The young ones began to wake, feeling extraordinary stress. Still confused, they attempted to rise. The master worms transformed, fluctuating revelations in apparent randomness. As beings of the Tuat, the refined mystical realm of the non-physical, as beings of the Nu, the plain sea of light. Triangulating as beings of the mundane physical realm of Earth. Their glow was light, translucent, and meshing at subatomic quantum levels. For a moment, the young ones caught a glimpse of the essential nature of the Gazat, one's province. Eventually, the young ones rose up, feeling drowsy. They stumbled about at first. They were unaware of the bind the loot worms had formed on an essential plane with each of them and the Earth. Now, wherever they went, the master worms were one with them. Locked into their very cores, and below them, under the ground, metaphysical clues moved with them too. It took time. The change was very gradual at first. However, growing exponentially, it swiftly came to a point where most humans were involved in mining or were somehow dependent on minerals in ways they traditionally were not. Most of the population were now bound to the Earth, each via an embedded master worm, living in and off them, feeding their clue of wormlets. These worms were an advanced parasitic force, apparently misaligned with the essential realm. Yet, with supreme tactics, they had been waiting, laying dormant, now connecting to the earthly dimension en masse. The diseases took time to surface too. You see, it's the tiny particles. Being very refined and not organic, they were never meant to be ingested raw in such high dosages by human beings. But now the populations, in their millions, were consuming the dust ambiently, quite unaware of the great danger. Before all this, the human beings lived off the light of the local star and ingested clean air. Their bodies, well designed for filtering out natural levels of pollution, they lived well and in harmony with nature. Now the worms had altered their consciousness, bringing friction into their bodies. This caused pain and led to frustrations to fears to deception, the undeclared heart. Most diamonds cracked. The worms appeared as the root illness, and many diseases manifested. The human beings lost most of their proper connection to the local starlight. The worms driving them deeper and deeper into the earth. The age of oppression and toil was upon them. People slept in the earth, and the worms fed on them. The humans had become quite confused, now wholly focused on mining. They had lost track of the true meaning of the Uthakapod. Now they simply called it moon and used it to track time. Time for work and some other natural cycles that might interfere with the work of extracting minerals.
From school to here, since then, it's what we do for living. It's what we do for living.
Let I be heard. The humans had become quite confused, now wholly focused on mining. They had lost track of the true meaning of the Uthakapod. Now they simply called it moon and used it to track time. Time for work and some other natural cycles that might interfere with the work of extracting minerals. However, the Uthakapod remained intact, unaffected by the worms. The humans had lost track of the grand plan, the original phases of planned development. They were not expecting the fourth wave of Abit, the guardians of the Ab. The fourth wave began. The first manted warrior of the guardians of the Ab descended on a silk-like thread, but found the atmosphere disordered just before touching down on Earth. She stopped without actually touching the surface of the ground, rocking from side to side, carefully measuring the organic carbon ratios. The depth of the meditation increased, and with it came insight. The descending wave, all the guardians of the Ab suspended their movement down their silk-like lines. It was quite a spectacle, but none touched the earth. The region they had entered, the Earth's atmosphere, was secluded enough that they were not seen by any humans. They, however, could see them. They watched carefully. The guardians of the Ab, looking deeply into the human beings, saw that their diamond-capped hearts were encrusted with calcium silicate, obstructing the heart function. Some humans even had tragic cracks in their diamonds. These findings were communicated with the pod. The guardians who had started their descent returned to the pod. None had touched the earth. The essence of the Ba, the Ku, the Shechem, the Ab, the Sahu, the Kaibet, and the Kab was steady and existing, wholesome in the pod, reflecting supreme being in the space. Due to their primal nature, the humans formed from the guardians of the Kab were most strongly bound to the earth by the worms. The humans formed from the guardians of the Kaibet and Sahu were progressively less entrapped. The eye, being well focused in the pod, resolved what the next intervention had to be, and so it began. A new realization of Ma'at had to be established. A fractal mind mapping tool was formed to aid the human's reorientation to the point of origin. This spiral loop tool supports the supreme form of clarity establishment, the way to know deeper orders in apparent chaos. The Mantis memory matrix was created, ready to deploy as a tool for relearning the Ma'at. This 27-point matrix cube was to be deployed and explored in many dimensions, providing the proper mental exercise required to free oneself from any bind. At each point, a big idea of Ma'at. 81 guardians of the Ab re-emerged from the pod, descending towards the Earth in 3 units of 27. They began their observations, looking carefully for the right ones. Due to the poor health of the humans, which was continuing to decline, their quest took much time, but eventually they found them. 3 young humans formed from the guardians of the Kaibet. Though it was weak, they were still expressing some sense of inner freedom in their play. As they played, the 3 Ab units swarmed on them, sweeping them off the ground into 3 aerial Mantis memory matrix structures. They held them there, confused and struggling. The reorientation began instantly. The young ones were inducted into the supreme form of clarity establishment. Over time, their struggle shifted from fighting against it, who appeared as strangers to them, to fighting that which was within them and binding them to disease. The master worms felt the shifting struggle. They could not touch the Ab, but became even more determined to keep control of their human hosts. The struggle took time. The struggle took time. However, the supreme form of clarity establishment was indeed supreme. As the young ones absorbed the big ideas of Ma'at, they began to see the true nature of their enslavement. 3 young ones, floating in the air, cubically surrounded, each by 27 mantids. The calcification of their diamonds had mostly fallen off and was being secreted out via special glands previously unnoticed. Abit had re-established the inner peace, power and wisdom to enter the meditation of their ancestors. They orientated towards the pod, and as they fasted and relaxed into an even greater inner standing, the master worm's loops broke from their cores. They were free. What a show! On Earth, other human beings had seen the great battle in the sky. When the 3 young ones touched the ground again, they drew a crowd.
àìpẹ́ kó tẹ́tí kọdẹ síwájú. Kọdẹ síwájú.
Wazo la shujaa.
Teragazi Helina.
Kọdẹ síwájú.
L'idée du guerrier. Teragazi Helina.
Wazo la shujaa.
Kọdẹ síwájú. Kọdẹ síwájú. àìpẹ́ kó tẹ́tí kọdẹ síwájú.
Fikratul maarif.
àìpẹ́ kó tẹ́tí kọdẹ síwájú. Kọdẹ síwájú.
La idea del guerrero.
Kọdẹ síwájú.
Wazo la shujaa.
Kọdẹ síwájú. Kọdẹ síwájú. àìpẹ́ kó tẹ́tí kọdẹ síwájú. Kọdẹ síwájú.
Fikratul maarif.
Kọdẹ síwájú.
战士人生理念。
àìpẹ́ kó tẹ́tí kọdẹ síwájú.
Let I be heard. What a show! On Earth, other human beings had seen the great battle in the sky. When the 3 young ones touched the ground again, they drew a crowd. Some were realizing inspiration and, watching the great battle, had started learning the form. Others, still too weak, sought to fight with the 3 young ones, but now they were moving as a unit of freedom. They were untouchable by the enslaved. The 3 immediately taught the form, expressing it in such intriguing ways that it was hard not to be captivated. The more they danced and played, the more their inner diamonds shone. Consciousness is beautiful. the humans advanced the liberation movement. With the form, each and every one could break their internal entrapments and assist each other. This was done with a growing societal joy, positively exponential joy. The parasitic loops were broken en masse. It was realized that so long as the form was practiced, the worms could not re-enter anyone's being. This practice became a way of life. Having completed their mission, the guardians of the Ab settled, and in time, they too transformed into human beings living on Meret, Earth. Humanity was reborn with crucial tools to keep the balance of light within and light beyond. Significant damage had been done to the Earth, but due to the vast size of the planet, it was easy not to realize the extent of it. The point required specific wisdom. It was recalled that the Earth was mindfully constructed, optimally designed within the laws of Ma'ath, being a great place to nurture Ma'at realization from within human beings. However, the Ma'afa, the great disaster of being without sense of Ma'at, definitely left the Earth with a deep wound. The wisest humans, with their knowledge, experience, and insight, could feel it clearly. Steadily, they realized that an even more wholehearted knowledge was required. What is the true nature of minerals in relation to the Earth as a whole? These humans, being the ones in Alkebulan, the land of humanity's point of origin upon the Earth, felt most compelled to aid the Earth's healing. Reflecting a firm grasp of their responsibility as guardians of the Earth as a whole, they would say, "I be original, I be Ma'at." With the Mantis memory matrix and the expression of the big ideas of Ma'ath, through the supreme form of clarity establishment, humans started to realize many sciences. The grasp of Ma'ath being the foundation to all kinds of productive capacity.
Measure of beauty and the mundane, look to the max. Seen, ration in proportion, be not mundane or vain. Numbers to infinity, all things count. Still, base 10 bound. Then more article bases must be found through equivalence and comparison of relative values. B3 to C. Operations mean links of this to that, related eternal families, properties, revealed through practiced operations. Add, subtract, divide, multiply, again, ad infinitum, the basic facts, correcting, dum-diddy-dum-dum. Imagine, algorithmic, like characterist when right, and sometimes tragic wrist to fist when fighting. Process calculated intentions, get the job done. But first, estimations of better made plans, patterns, better play to this. A variable beat, proportions, correct ratio I must keep related to higher functions. Reap that power, reap that power. Equates inequalities in shape and solid form. Orientate, locates, and transform. Measured in space-time, consistent in forming upright nations, XYZ stations of the cross. Collect data, represent ever deeper inner concentration in what they seem. A mean, mo, me guy, that code does shine. In the knowledge of one's certainty, Tawagi. Yes, that's me from the heart. I be origin of all. I be I be original. I be Ma'ah. 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 I be original. I be Ma'ah.
I be my art. I be my art. I be my art.
Let I be heard. I be original. I be Ma'at. With the Mantis memory matrix and the expression of the big ideas of Ma'ath, through the supreme form of clarity establishment, humans started to realize many sciences. The grasp of Ma'ath being the foundation to all kinds of productive capacity. To aid the Earth's healing, the science of soil, rock, and mineral formation was developed with depth and holistic comprehensiveness. Significantly, it was remembered that during the formation of the Earth, the Abit had harnessed, universal magnetoflows and magnetospheres. The way they shaped the Earth gave it its magnetosphere, an electromagnetic field that helps to protect the Earth from solar and cosmic forces and other dynamics. Space is a complex domain. Yet beings deep in knowledge of it yield profound freedom. Moving with deep insights, the human beings studied the relationships of the land space and airspace, knowing them to be in a polar spectrum and derivatives of mind space, all forming the Gazat, one's province. They studied the connective points and layers in great detail, finding that the relatively thin surface of Earth was indeed a remarkable web of subtle energy points and fields connected to the magnetosphere and its flows. One, the types of soil by percentage ratios of sand, clay, silt. 2, the concentrations of mineral deposits. 3, microbial life cycles, biosphere markers. 4, luminescence cycles, light. 5, moisture cycles, wet, dry. 6, temperature cycles, cold, hot. These 6 critical factors in synergy have a specific relationship to the dynamic flow of life's charge. Through the energies in and around these synergy points and fields, charge was placed correctly all over the Earth. We call this unique web of subtle energy points and fields the Web 6 function. Yet the human's knowledge came to a grindingly slow pace of development, a situation where new insights were now few and far between. Pressure grew as every new annual and even lunar cycle seemed to evidence further breakdown of the Earth's protective systems. Most concerningly, the magnetosphere, Earth's great protective shield. All indicators pointed to the damage done during the Great Ma'afa, the deep wound when people were so abused and the soil so ravaged. Both were so profoundly distorted from their true natures. The Earth was in a state of trauma. Let I be heard. A council of guardians was convened. A special dance was created at the gathering to reopen the flow of insight. A new way had to be found to halt the damage to the magnetosphere by correcting all the imbalances still existing on the Earth's surface. The dance used the mantis memory matrix form again. However, this time it brought together the big ideas of physical nature, physics, and the Web 6 function. The council gathered the circle, the Ngoma circle. It was rhythmic. All were engaged inside it and on its circumference. Through the form, the dance grew beautiful dynamics that resonated far. After the fourth day, some members of the council entered the meditation of their ancestors. Being one in mind, breath and body, the council's consciousness became exhausted. In this state, much was realized and new insight began to flow. The council's meditation revisited the beginning of the Ma'afa. Through advanced postcasting visualization techniques, they could review the journey of the original 3 young ones into the cave. They saw, from an external voyeuristic viewpoint above them, the emergence of the worms from the earth, their entry into the young ones' bodies, and the creatures' return to the earth. However, in their exalted state, they were enabled to look with incredible magnification into the nature of the master worms. Fascinating it was, for with deeper inspection, using the process called that which is inside one, that which is beyond one, they entered a microscopic view of the worms. Inside the worm's structure was another world, the world of the worm's microbes. The microbe, the smallest creature, was now being known with overstanding by the humans. Previously, such existence was vaguely perceived on the outside of some things. Upon realizing them inside the worms, it was discovered that these tiny creatures also existed inside the humans, but in different ratios, and typically very different types too. The key insight was that these tiny symbiotic microorganisms, not visible by regular direct sight, are essential to the worm's life and temperament, and the life temperament of most creatures. This inner world we call the microbiota. All this was learned through the dance focused on the big ideas of physical nature, physics, and the Web 6 function. In the acts of the dance assumed the name Sesedankira, Earth Dance. Yet the dance, now 7 days in, seemed far from complete. The council's meditation probed deeper into the worm's microbiota, spending another day in this space. One particular type of microbe creature became an obvious point of interest. They flickered curiously between worlds, earthly and the fluctuating multi-dimensional quantum mesh that was rarely observed in practical ways. These meshing microbes, which in themselves looked like tiny Kephra dung beetles, seemed to be struggling, causing disruption in the master worm's microbiota, thus its temperament. The council named the being Kephra, the small, the great, Tzeteg. Indeed, Kephra had a great story. Kephra revealed that they came to life not with the other microbes on Earth, but actually in the first act of creating Abit. They were an unrealized bit of Abit, the embodiment of the laws of supreme flow, continuous transformation. A metaform of a microbe so tiny that even Abit had not considered them as a separate being. In the beginning, they lived only in a few sacred places on the outside of Abit's exoskeleton. However, in the early stages of shaping Earth, the thoughts of Khepra were also invested into every creature and plant life form by their will. Khepra essentially explained that they were the ancestor of all other microbes. The Uthaka pod, perfectly tuned into the high-frequency dance, was stimulated by this revelation, as it was news even to the Abit. The eye enjoyed the dawning of these profoundly new levels of insight in and throughout creation. These microbial beings were overseeing the transformation of the Earth at an atomic level, refining elements one from another and forming new compounds. Minerals being particularly significant deposits due to their broad-ranging effects on energy fields and flows. The Khepra had its own self-realization. Knowing they needed to leave the Earth, they captured the creature, the common earthworm, and by manipulating its microbiota, it became the master worm, driving it to capture the humans' minds via their guts. The Khepra were determined to use the humans to help them reshape the Earth's web of subtle energy points and fields connected to the magnetosphere and its flows. By breaking the Earth's magnetosphere, an opening would be created through which they, the Khepra, could leave this planet to travel the universe, opening the way. Their intention, freedom. It was now the dawn of the 9th day. The dance peaked with a triangulated realization between the humans, the mesh beings, and the Abit of the pod. With this level of insight, the eye made an intervention. There you have it. 3 fractals of the eye had profoundly come into classical knowledge of himself. For clarity, they appealed to the eye, so the eye responded. It was agreed that the Earth's subtle energy points and fields needed to be rebalanced. This would happen by again impacting the Earth, redepositing raw materials in their correct places and amounts. Humans were to leave Alkebulan, especially the central Alkebulan region, as the meteor storm would be very intense. This meant a great exodus, the first of its kind. However, they could return after 3 lunar months. The microbial mesh beings were resilient enough to survive such an event. They would stay. For 1 lunar month after the storm, there would be an opening in the magnetosphere. Winchi, the ancient crane bird, would be engaged to fly in spirals of special ratio, thus creating the skyward force vortex dynamic to help carry Khepra beyond the Earth's low-level atmosphere, beyond the stratosphere, enabling them to access the opening to freedom. The Council completed the dance by bringing into the world a special agreement that would encode these events of Ahun, now, past, present, future, known. It was realized that the soil was the key medium humans could manage in ways that extended influence beyond the well-being of the Earth, actually reaching deep into a solar and universal balance. Now seeing themselves as beings also destined to travel the universe one day, they set in place the Alkebulan soil covenant, establishing the essential discipline, supreme being ordered, Ma'at. The covenant bound the humans en masse to maintaining a high soil consciousness by recognizing ever-advancing competence in the Sese Dankira. It ensured that Alkebulan would serve as an example for the world by enforcing good and then divine human character, with the main concerns being in agricultural and mining development. High ethical conduct in all soil-related areas was bound to be essential. The dance had taken half the lunar cycle to complete, closing after ease, perfectly timed with the full moon clarity.
Perfectly timed with the full moon.
It was the most incredible dance there had ever been in the world. Preparations were made for the events to come. Drums sounded the utterance, and swiftly all humans across Alkebulan had news of the upcoming exodus. Agreed for the next full moon. After the dance, all humans' inner diamonds shone brighter. Their inner tutor connections healed. Yet, the earth was still in trauma. The day came. Dawn appeared relatively normal, except the now visible incoming meteor shower was within the outer fields of the Earth's magnetosphere. They were clearly visible the night before, and the weather pattern was affected. Most humans had moved to new lands, though this was a momentous exodus event. The majority of the population were very skilled at moving across the ground at pace, being able to run for days with special Tunfash Azazel breathing techniques and in Andernet unity as families and communities. Humans of this time were not hugely attached to things, so they could travel light. They knew that being light was always good. Some, though, decided to stay in Alkebulan. Many predicted to perish, but some could survive what was to come. Such is the nature of human beings. And so it began. The storm was an incredible event. All over Alkebulan, huge rocks fell from the sky at high speed, most turning into fire en route to crashing into the ground, exploding on impact. The fires were massive, and there was such a threatening denseness of dust, so thick it blocked the sun's light and caused the general temperature to fall dramatically. The environment was so weird. That said, it was completed in a day. The strikes were clearly targeted at areas where there had been great depletion of minerals during the Ma'afa. Though the storm was only a few hours long, it took several days for the dust to settle and the fires to stop. Rain came for several days after that. This helped to wash the new materials back into the earth. The moment of the first clear day saw the arrival of the Winchi. They had left the region and returned to honor the agreement. They flew in spiral forms of special ratio, and thus the vortices opened. thousands of Alkebulan. The Kepra, activated in their meshing form, were translucent and lightly glowing. They rose to the ground surface en masse and floated into the vortices in a spectacle of tiny lights, from a distance appearing to form murmuration-like structures all across the land. Most of the Kepra left the earth to satisfy their intention, but there was still enough within the soil to regrow their number on earth again. As a tremendous migrating force, they rose up into the sky vortices. As they passed by the Winchi, their fluctuating meshing dynamic affected the crane birds. Their quantum dynamics stripped the mighty creature of its internal microbiota in a way that made the ancient bird uniquely sovereign, just like Abit. For the consecrated protection of the Winchi, some of the Kepra took up residence on a few sacred places on the outside of the bird's body. Their beautiful crowns and around the unique hook on their feet that enabled them to roost in trees. In this way, both Winchi and Abit have been anointed sacred creatures in the world, having special powers regarding elemental transformations. As if the time were not eventful enough, as the Kepra left the earth, the guardians of the Shechem descended from the pod. Phasing perfectly again on silk-like threads, using the moment to begin and complete their part of the grand plan. The fifth phase of arrivals from the pod touched down on the earth. At this time, the new Dankira form called elemental transformation was developed by the first coupled dances expressed by the two genders of Winchi and Abit. Earth mantis, water crane, fire mantis, and air crane. This was done in preparation for the en masse return of the human beings who would need to learn and master change. The laws of supreme flow, continuous transformation. It was good that those humans who had lived through the great storm witnessed all these wonderful happenings. Many of them would become a special class of light worker, Tawagi, warrior. Their insight deep in all elemental matters. Their relationship with the full spectrum of light improved. The light workers who studied Tunteneter Lo Toch, elemental transformation, became very mighty guardians of peace, power, and wisdom. On the appointed day, one lunar cycle from the great storm saw the opening in the magnetosphere close naturally. Though Earth's surface in this region had been battered and reshaped, the substantial majority of plants and creatures had survived. All were set to benefit from the new emergent stability. The following 2 lunar months saw nature's excellent regenerative ability take effect. As the 3rd lunar cycle completed, the humans returned en masse. Though some chose to stay in the new lands, and even push out further around the planet. The world appeared abundant and full of opportunity. The era now called the Age of Correction was complete, and a new era was dawning. After the challenges of the Exodus, populations were fitter and quickly realized that the Earth was no longer in trauma. They celebrated globally. Their compliance had aided the return of balance. Their inner diamonds, the ones that capped their hearts, gleamed, beaming in a way that had not been seen for an era. In time, the guardians of the Shechem merged with this generation of humans, taking on human form. The power of the society was well protected, and the covenant was held in high regard. The council was wise, and having seen the importance of compliance deeply, were empowered across all of Alkebulan to ensure that the covenant stayed in high regard. Hashima. They implemented the latest technologies to support people's tangible and intangible benefits from the covenant, continuously informed through the dance, focusing their deep values for the soil. Key to this was the insight that the soil, specifically through the rocks and minerals, is the world's truest ancient ledger of insight. All types of life eventually found their physical form becoming part of the soil. In this process, life stories were captured and could be retold by those with science, wisdom, and freedom of insight. So, when the technology called Web3 came forward with decentralized ledger technologies and blockchains, it was immediately realized in Alkebulan that the soil was the original blockchain. The covenant had to be translated into every future technological era. This is now part of our function. Since the beginning, humans had been traveling the world and settling in every place, so populations existed everywhere. With the great Age of Correction Exodus, these populations were boosted. Though it took time, these more remote populations had been maturing into distinct collectives of temperaments and characters, being significantly informed by the earlier interventions of the eye. The goodness of diversity was well seeded on Earth. The land masses had changed over time too, making populations more siloed. With these factors in context, the time came to pass when many places outside of Alkebulan again lost, relatively speaking, the proper respect for the soil. Some agencies of populations were even challenging the Alkebulan way, seeking to undermine it. The seeds of discord existed, though not yet expressed with any great force of disagreeability. So the council and population of humans Alkebulan-wide focused on what was good. For they knew most deeply the traumas of the past and the magnitude of the age of correction. It was realized that technology had to enhance the people's relationship to the soil, in the knowledge that any virtual ledger made by humans would have to be underpinned by the ancient ledger of insight, the original blockchain. The land was mapped out with environmentally friendly sensors placed in and above the earth. They measured the Web 6 function factors. 1. The types of soil by percent ratios of sand, clay, silt. 2. The concentrations of mineral deposits. 3. Microbial life cycles, biosphere markers. 4. Illuminescence cycles, light. 5. Moisture cycles, wet, dry. 6. Temperature cycles, cold, hot. The information was securely placed in the Soil Covenant Web3 blockchain, permitting public transparency and proper tokenization of all communal assets without having to mine or extract them. Usury was repugnant and prohibited. The ledger also helped establish the quality assurance of all agricultural processes. Enshrined in the covenant was the protocol of land custodianship. So all citizens of Alkebulan were allocated land to be mindful of and given resources to help them administer that responsibility. That protocol of land allocation was explicitly not the land the citizen lived on. At least 3 citizens from different regions would always share this responsibility. Thus nurturing the collective sense of custodianship. This approach decentralized the duty of care and empowered high integrity voting rights through a vast network of community council forums. This oversaw all significant land management matters, such as home establishment, building on or in land, agriculture and mining. The high ethical and educational baseline meant that these administrative structures remained dynamic and rarely became corrupt, such disagreeable tendencies being quickly perceived and addressed in council. The Sesa Dankira dance was also instituted in the early years of human learning. It continued to yield new breakthroughs in soil science, maintaining Alkebulan's global authority in land management and guardianship. The dance made the people strong in their martial, cultural, arts and sciences, which further optimized their relationship with the sun, light. Sessa Dankira as continuous lifelong learning. The protocol of land custodianship. Soil covenant, Web3 blockchain. These three policies of Alkebulan kept the people well. Holding them shaped how other peoples of the world interacted with best practice principles in their regional environments. Those societies that accepted the deceptive misvaluation tactics of capitalist trading were forced to properly value the raw materials upon which their ventures depended. Places in the world that devalued the soil and the goods thereof soon felt the ethical pressure of their people. Most people were consistently impressed by the humans of Alkebulan, holding up these diamond-capped ones as the most excellent custodians of Earth. As every area of people's activity was essentially bound to the soil, the wise council of Alkebulan could amicably maintain regulation for the whole of humankind on Earth. Proven consistency over time by Ma'at, simply regulating the collective self as the supreme authority. It was during this era that the guardians of the coup descended on silk-like threads into the central Alkebulan region. A highly blessed place, where the language culture was gentle. Early in this age, some felt the covenant was restrictive to some of their freedoms to act as they wished with soil and land. This, in fact, was true. However, as the current era drew to a sense of complete resilience, Alkebulan was starting to now create, from abundant resources, all of the raw materials the humans felt the need for. This was the point the humans of Alkebulan came to know the coup.
The I, now completing this function as a guardian of the Ba, having been appointed as chief scribe, a custodian of the records of Ma'at, have told you this great story. The cooperative's insight will continue to converge as you digest and transform these functions. Your duties.
Let the wisest choices be made at all the critical points of assessment that are to come. Be clear. All ones can appeal to the I. The I will respond. Hashima Tawagi Asa.
Akpe Kodaji Kode Chiwato.
Respect the warrior idea. Hotep. Perfect peace.